Good morning, everyone, on the Asperger's Awareness Syndrome page. Today I wanted to promote a book for you. I've been doing some research in visual aids and tools for people with Asperger syndrome or people who are neurotypical but are just wanting to understand the Aspie world. And I've come across this lovely lady called The Girl with the Curly Hair, and I'm sure you've seen visuals pass by from her on our page. And she's an amazing writer. She has written several books, all from her point of view. She has Asperger syndrome. She's 24 years old, and she writes in a wonderfully understandable way. Because of what I study to be a social care worker / therapist thing. I deal with a lot of theories about mental disabilities and illnesses and syndromes. And those things can be very overwhelming, very difficult to understand, very hard to grasp, like, what does this do to you on your daily life basis? How does this affect my child, partner, brother, sister, friend? How does this affect me? I mean, it may be very well that a certain definition will say is socially awkward, but what does that do to your environment? How does it make you feel? How does it make the Aspie feel? How does it make the parents feel, or the friends or lover? Those kind of things are never really explained anywhere, and you're sort of left on your own to figure it out, and that's very hard. For NTs, it's quite difficult because you can't really see it from an Aspie point of view, so you don't really know how they're feeling, but you do know how you're feeling. The good thing is you're able to express that, and you have other people who will sort of express the same, and you have a support network, even though it can be very difficult for a partner, lover, child, family, friend to deal with an Aspie. You have the ability to communicate verbally and find support online or in your nearby environment, hopefully. For Aspies, it's a bit more difficult because we're very locked into ourselves and we don't always have the ability to express ourselves the way we want to. When I get high on emotion, it's all emotion and nothing else, so there's no words in between. I cannot express it. So expressing to neurotypical people or fellow Aspies, doesn't really matter, how I feel is difficult. So you have the definition. Let's say again, socially awkward, but I cannot express to you how that feels to me. So, why The Girl with the Curly Hair project? She writes from her own point of view. So she writes from an Aspie point of view, which means that she puts the definition, socially awkward, into her own words and makes it very understandable for both Aspies and neurotypical people. I got this book the other day. It's called Asperger's and Me, and it's sort of more like her memoirs, although I wouldn't call it that, wherein she explains what effect Asperger's has had on her general life. And she does so in a very understandable, open, acceptable kind of way. It's not, I have issues reading, I have issues processing information, so I don't have to reread a sentence 15 times before I get it. I don't have to break it down in little words before I get it. It's written in a very understandable way for me, so I can relate to her. I feel less lonely when I read that book. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone. But also for neurotypical people, it's written in such a way, they go like, oh my God, really? I never looked at it that way. Thank you so much for expressing it this way. She deals with certain points like diagnosis. How did that go for her? And I don't mean like, she doesn't describe it in a very dry way, but she pinpoints the things like the train ride and how long it was. The psychiatrist asking if she could tolerate the scent of coffee, things that mattered to us. And that way she shares it, and she can show it to neurotypical people, like, this matters to us, this is important to us. I'll just go over the chapters for you. You know, she goes on about my diagnosis, her life at school, and how she wanted to be away from peers, a normal mask versus what she really is, confirmation years, life at home, about her work in university, social life, depression, the now and beyond. The reason I love her books is because she taps into subjects we are unable to express. For instance, and this is not something a lot of people know about me, she taps into gender issues. It seems that a lot of females who have Asperger's have a tendency to be very male. When I was in my teenage years, I really felt like I was a boy in a female body. So I dressed as a tomboy. I always was a tomboy. And people would come up and ask me if I was a boy or a girl, which would be very traumatizing for me because I didn't understand them. But she actually names that. She says, I had the same thing. I went through the same thing. So I feel less alone. I feel less abnormal. I can show people like, look, this is normal in my world, which is also shared by other Aspies. I can show to neurotypical people when I can't explain it. Look at this chapter. This is what I feel. This is what goes on in me. And that makes that book so very important to me. Anyone who wants to learn about Asperger Syndrome, whether it be neurotypical or someone who has Asperger's themselves and want to learn to understand them, I really, absolutely, totally recommend this book. This is a really intense book. When you're Asperger's, I'll warn you, it is intensive. You will have to put it away at times because it becomes so overwhelming in emotion because you recognize it so much. For neurotypical people, if you have a partner or a child or a teenager or a brother or a sister with Asperger Syndrome, this book is awesome. It really is. It will talk about points that the theoretical magazines and such don't talk about, like taking things literal and how we take things literal, thinking black and white, the emotional on-off switch, things like that. Those are all talked about in here in a very understandable language, but written from her point of view, from an Aspie point of view. I will post a link to this book together with this video because it's so good. I think people should try and read it. You can get it in paperback, which is good for me because I need to hold something, otherwise it becomes too flat for me. But you can also get it on in Kindle version on Amazon.com, but I will post a link for you. If you have any questions about this book, you can just leave them in the comments down below or address them to the girl with the curly hair on her Facebook page or just here, and I will make sure she gets it. I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. Bye.